Yeah, and then because it hasn't really happened here, then it reinforces that feeling that the company is also powerful. You know, that they can not only do what they've done, but they can also keep the rage from coming in here. And like I said, they have had not full-scale raids, but they've come in town. One time they came in and they just went with outstanding warrants. I mean, those are the ones that they through the police station, and other than just some select few, and they never really had a raid that like they've had in other packing houses here. But like I said, it reinforces everybody's thoughts in the community that this company is so powerful, and it might be partially true that they have those political connections to not happen here, or
I mean,
make sure we're at the bottom of the list type of thing.
Right.
You know.
They'd be afraid that some kind of the history of Austin would be
Yeah.
reinvigorated. What was I going to say? So how have things been for the workers now that you represent? What are some of the issues, the primary issues that workers are dealing with today? Is it healthcare? Is it the work conditions? Is it the pay?
Well, kind of all of those.
Okay.
Well, this company also pays about a nickel or a dime above what everybody else pays. So they always can use that, hey, it's the best in the industry, And as you go further north, as you go up north up the Packing House Trail, the wages at the further north you go get a little bit better. And because this, in this community, because there hadn't been a strike for 50 years, which is unheard of in the packing house industry. You go from the 30s with the organizing, and into the 50s where they went from zero to one of the best in about 20 years. And the vehicle being the packing house committee that I spoke about earlier and the master contracts. So then you take those away, and then you have a community that didn't have a strike during that whole 50-year period. It was a very established community here. It wasn't like a regular, normal packing house town where, every so often you'd have to save up your money. 'Cause I remember my dad back where I come from came home one time, said it looked like they were going to go out on strike. They were going to go on strike for another week's vacation, and if they got it, then the next year we would take our family vacation. And so they did win it. The next year was the first big family vacation that we ever had. We went to California where my aunt lived. We went to Disneyland, and I think it was like 14 then. And when I was 10 was the first time we had dental care. So I remember the first time going to the dentist because we finally got dental care.
At 15?
10.
At 10.
First time I went to the dentist. Of course I had several cavities by then. And so now you go back to, so you have a community where, the company used to be mad, in my opinion, the company would be mad when they look out in the parking lot prior to the strike and they'd see people with their campers ready to go out on the weekend. So now, what has happened is people supplemented their incomes with overtime. So I'm not making as much money, so I'll work more and make more money. And second jobs, and with lower. I don't know how to explain that. I mean, when I first came up here, like nobody, there was no overtime for one thing, and nobody wanted it. So I made sure that I did work in overtime because I had seniority. And then as one contract since the strike we had was a 4-year agreement with a 30-cent raise over the term of the contract. So our raises haven't matched inflation since then, but our health care, it got butchered after the strike, but we've been able to maintain that health care.
That's good.
So that's one of the few things that, you know, you could say that we've been successful since the strike is, in, you know, the copay costs have went up a little bit, but not as much as a lot of them. But the wages haven't matched. So, you know, so people would start grabbing the overtime. You know, I mean, now you, instead of working 40 hours a week, you work 45 and still not really be getting ahead because that's, your wages didn't increase.
It's
as
not
fast.
easy work.
Oh, no, it's not easy work, you know. But the manufacturing part is not as quite as labor intensive as the slaughtering part, which pays less. But you know, from the company's perspective, is they look at it like, okay, now I got this 50-cent piece of meat. Okay, so I'm going to spend some time and cut it up and make it, and then I'm going to put some, you know, 4 cents worth of spice on it, and put 10 cents worth of pretty wrapping on it. Now, and all those processes, now it's worth more money, so that's one of the reasons why they justify paying more money in the manufacturing side, is because now if that piece of meat falls on the floor over here, it's only 50 cents, but over here now it's worth $1. You know, so I'm going to pay these guys a little bit more, so they're a little bit more careful and not to let it fall on the floor. And then you can always tell them, hey, look, you know, if you don't like it here, you can go over there and make less money. So, you know, it's another way for them to be able to whip one worker against the other worker. But like I said, our problems here aren't as bad as a lot of the other packing houses because of now there's all that overtime to get. You know, now people don't have weekends because they're working doubles, or they're you know, or their wife is working alongside of them. And if you're not making as much money, then you still qualify for government programs. So if you never had nothing, and you know, which a lot of the workers coming in haven't had nothing, it looks like it's a good job, you know, because you're making $14 an hour.
They don't know what they're losing.
Right.
Or what's
If
been
you never
lost.
had, you know, those that have nothing to lose. You know, so coming in with nothing, you don't know, and that's why it's hard to, kind of hard to bring the whole industry back together.
Because people have adjusted to a lower standard of living.
Yeah, exactly.